Hi everyone. So I'm Sayambhu and I'm an alumni of IISc from 2019. And today I'd like to tell my coming out story. So I realized that I was gay when I was 16, and also at that time it was my class 10 exams. So I felt that uh, it was isolating initially because I remember everybody else talking about how they like the girls in the movies and everything because we were in a boys' school. But somehow I could not relate to that, and I found it quite strange to be liking the guys in the movies instead. So that initially did rock me, and I did not even have a proper conception of what gay meant. I only heard from my friends that gay or homo, as the term was, meant as someone who likes his own sex. And after I realized that, my first option was that this was something of an anomaly and I needed to change it because I had never even known what gay properly meant, and I thought I was the only one in this world who was like that. So my first experience was that I didn't know where to look for it, first of all, because I didn't have access to a computer or the internet. So it also made me think that perhaps there's a way to change it. And so I tried to do the whole trying to find a girlfriend thing, and I guess after a while somehow I did find someone, but it was only when I was with her that I realized that things weren't exactly working out, and I realized that I am someone who needs not only a physical connection but also an emotional connection, and both of that was absent with the girl. So that is when I truly realized that I was gay. I tried to change it, I guess, by watching girls and forcing myself to like them, and that did cause a lot more stress because I was not at all happy, and also it was a time of a lot of stress because it was the time of entrance exams, class 11 and 12, and along with the stress I also had to deal with the stress of uh, exams, and also the stress of accepting my sexuality. I guess my first understanding, or the first time I accepted myself, was when I started uh, looking at guys and starting to accept them, mainly like in the movies and everything. So once I realized that it is something I can accept, I really felt a huge load go off of me. And I guess that was the biggest affirmation I had, that once I accept myself, I found dealing with the study stress a lot more easier. So it was mainly after this that I decided that I can come out to someone. The first person I came out to was my brother. Very luckily, he accepted it. And I guess that made a huge difference, because once some loved ones actually accept you, it becomes a huge asset, and dealing with the rest becomes easier. The next person I came out to was my best friend in school, and he initially had some trouble, but ultimately he did understand and he was very accepting of it. And this gave me a whole lot more confidence, because at school I had a whole lot of trouble socializing and making friends, mainly because of my sexuality, and I found that I could not relate to the talks that most teenagers have about girls and stuff. And So I did have huge lot of confidence issues at the time, but I guess ultimately, like, coming out to these two people really helped me out. Then after that, it was a isolating moment because of the exam. So at that time, I had sort of become comfortable with a little bit of isolation, and uh, it was after I went to college that I finally had an internet connection in the school library and school college Wi-Fi, and that was the first time I started to look up homosexuality on the internet through, and that was when I saw that it was mainly the Christian propaganda, which was, or religious anything, which was against it, and science, in fact, did have a lot of evidence in which showed that, like, there's nothing wrong with homosexuality. So that gave me a huge confidence boost because I was already more of a believer of science, and that's why also, like, I got greater confidence in myself, and I started making a bit more friends in college, and I had the courage to come out to them first. Now here's the thing, it went mixed. Some of them accepted, some of them did not, and it was not exactly hostile, but it was more of a reaction in which uh, they didn't exactly understand. It was more of a lack of understanding, and they just couldn't wrap their heads around all the other concepts related to it. Like, for example, they couldn't accept their head around pride, and they also thought that maybe this was something that needed to be hidden, and they couldn't exactly wrap their concept around finding a same sex partner. So that was something they did not exactly encourage me on it. But it didn't stop them from being friends, of course. And that is when I sort of I sort of got along with them. I mean, I wouldn't say it was too bad, but, like, there was always a part of me that was restricted with them. So I guess after this, with the advent of with access to the internet, one of the one really great thing that happened was that I came in contact with more number of gay friends, and that was a huge difference because finally I could be my complete self and talk about all my feelings completely, and that really helped me out. Like, I felt very free with them, and the freedom that comes from being able to talk your mind openly and being able to talk about whom you love, that really makes a difference. And I found that I had a greater amount of time spending. I spent a greater amount of time with them, and I began to hear more coming out stories with them, with their families and parents. And this was more of the crowd which was associated with those who made pride parades in Kolkata. And with them, I found that I slowly began to build my courage to come out. But of course, they did mention that financial independence is a huge thing, because if parents do throw you out of the house for not accepting, then financial independence becomes a huge thing. So I waited till I got my first job in college, and it's only when I got the job that I decided to come out to my parents. And that too, initially I did not have the courage to tell them directly. It was my brother who helped me out in that. Like, I began to say to my mother, and I stopped because I found I could not get the words out. It was very difficult. And that was when my brother called my mom, because my brother called my mom, and he really talked to my mother about the whole thing, because my brother was very supportive from the beginning. And that was when my mother was a bit understanding, and she did say that, like, she just wants, like, me to be safe. And I guess like she didn't really fully wrap her head around it, but she was at least happy that like I was safe. And I don't know, maybe she had some other misconceptions of like hijras, and as she later did ask me whether uh, it's the same as a trans person or a gay person, and I was happy to explain to her. But and my father was a bit of a neutral situation. I mean, he said that like just keep yourself safe, and make sure that at least you are staying away from danger, because people do treat, because he knew that people do treat uh, uh, non-normative people in a bad way. So as long as I was safe, I guess he was happy. And however, in my mother's case, what happened was that she asked a family doctor, and she heard from that person that apparently this is a bad thing and that it needs to change. So it was after that my mother got really not supportive, and each time I would try to talk to her, she would somehow tell me this is just a phase and not to talk about it. And I guess with my mother it's still a long uphill task in order to convince her. However, the pressure of marriage at least is not there, because somehow I managed to convince my parents that I am the studying kind and I like to study more than I'd like to get married. So at least that is one excuse I can get away with. But yeah, she hasn't fully accepted it, and it is something I'm still working on it. And another thing was that in when I came to IISc, so having this support group, and maybe I didn't know all the members of QUASI, but I knew a few members and they turned out to be a really good friends of mine. Like, these are the type of friends I guess I've been looking for all my life, with whom I can be completely myself and talk about all of my inner feelings, fears, and that really makes a difference. It absolutely makes a difference of being able to completely open up yourself and also realize that what parts of you are wrong. I mean, see, there were parts of me that were selfish, and also there were parts of me which, after talking to people, I realized that I needed to change. But you need to open up about it, right, in order to address them. So that is what I felt, that being able to be open about it means that you can talk about all of you, your good sides and your bad sides, and be able to completely understand what it means. So I am not out to all of my friends, but I don't know, maybe this video is something of a coming out video, and I don't mind. In college, a lot of my friends knew. In fact, like I would say, most of my batchmates knew. So they have been in between accepting and not accepting. In ISC also, I came out to a lot of friends, and they did help me realize, like they did accept somewhat. Some of them did accept a lot, some of them are less. So it's always a mixed reaction. Coming out is never an easy process, but it is something that I feel really takes a load off your shoulders of having to hide a part of yourself. And coming out also makes you really, really close with friends, because it is a critical part of your identity and who we love, and to share with others the knowledge of who we love, that does make a huge difference. I mean, yes, and I guess it's those friends I'm really close with to whom I'm out, because somehow those friends I'm not out to, I need to keep a distance with them, because there's always this tension, and I guess that's what motivates me to come out again and again, I guess. And lastly, I would say that in the whole coming out journey, it's important to accept yourself. That was the hardest part for me in class 11 and 12. And it was only after I learned to accept myself that I realized that I learned to come out. accept yourself, love yourself, and then slowly work your way in the whole process. And that's it. Thank you.